Tony talk, let's set the scene where conversations flow smooth, if you know what I mean. We dive deep into topics that spark and ignite culture and politics in the moon soft light. Let rhythm beats in a soulful vibe. Real talk, no sugar, we keep it alive.
They breaking the silence with every single word. In a world full of noise, hear what you've heard. From the streets to the jazz bars where the real ones play. Let's unravel the fabric of our modern day sway. R&B melodies weaving through the air. Thoughts tumble and dance, it's more than just flair. Hey. No right or wrong, just shades of gray. Tony's here to challenge in a soulful way. So think critically, open your mind. In this rhythms of life, let's see what we find. Tony talk the stage where we break the mold. Taboo topics, treasures to behold. It's like Sunday brunch, sipping on sweet tea. We mix it up with jazz, real talk just flows free. Politics and culture, yeah, they're intertwined. In the heartbeat of music, real truths and wine. Not here to preach, we just share our views. Sit back and relax, let's light the fuse. Conversations that matter, let's take it high. R&B rhythms in the jazzed up sky. So think critically. Stage where we break the mold. Taboo topics, treasures to behold.
Okay, welcome to Tony L Talks. I'm your host, Tony L, and thank you for joining me tonight. Tonight, we're going to talk about Zohran Mamdani here in NYC and his new agenda to remove people from their homes, to take people's properties away from them. This is all part of his socialist plan, so we're going to get into it. We're going to start by playing just a little bit of what he had to say recently at an appearance here in New York City.
But help New Yorkers move into these homes faster. Our plan will pursue a multi-pronged strategy to make it easier for New Yorkers to buy a home, including creating hundreds of new affordable co-ops and community land trusts. And we will also make it easier for homeowners to stay in their homes as we combat deed theft and relaunch the Mortgage Assistance Program. Combined, these efforts will lead to growth beyond anything New Yorkers have seen in generations. For some, the dream of homeownership will finally be within reach. Others will be able to sleep easily in homes they no longer fear losing. The second plank of our housing plan includes some of the strongest and most expansive tenant protections anywhere in the United States of America.
New York City already has the strongest and most expansive tenant protections in the United States of America. We already have the most archaic laws as it pertains to landlord-tenant issues. New York City is probably the most hostile place if you are a landlord, if you're a homeowner, if you're a mom and pop landlord, if you're a commercial landlord. We have the worst landlord-tenant laws in the country, and he's promising to double down on it and make it even worse.
There is a reason why I put tenants front and center on my first day in office, when I visited a long-neglected, rent-stabilized building and declared that we will not wait to deliver action. Nearly 70% of New Yorkers do not own their homes.
Yeah, nearly 70% of New Yorkers don't own their homes. That's a problem. The lack of home ownership, which we know is the building block to wealth, yeah, that's definitely one of the biggest problems that we're experiencing here in New York City. So what is Mayor Zohran Mamdani's solution? Let's hear it.
Yet tenants helped to carry this movement to City Hall because they believed in the city that could actually fight for them, that could actually protect them from bad landlords, that could actually ensure that their struggles would shape the policies that impact their lives. This plan that we present today was guided by New Yorkers' testimony during our rental rip-off hearings, and it reflects their concerns and their needs. And as we empower tenants, we will place a special emphasis on those in the Bronx. who have so long been excluded from investments, who have been subjected to acute neglect, and who have faced destructive fires at the highest rate in this city. I am proud to announce a legislative task force to overhaul our city's outdated housing maintenance code.
See, for those of you who are here in New York City, you know that the housing maintenance code, that's basically the rules under which the city abides by, right? That's where all of those agencies like the Department of Buildings, HPD, the Mayor's Office of Special Enforcement, all of those agencies that dictate the rules of your occupancy in your home, the building codes, all of those things. So he's talking about updating the HMC. Now, the crazy thing is, I've combed through the entire HMC, the Housing Maintenance Code. I did this along with my attorney when we were drafting Intro 948, which was a very thorough and intensive homeowner protection bill. And it was common sense, right? We combed through like 1,600 pages of the administrative code. And the Adams administration basically ignored us. The Mamdani administration, they basically ignored us. In fact, the city council, our wonderful socialist city council, they threw us under the bus when it came to the bill, even when we offered to help to update the housing maintenance code, because the codes that we are abiding by in New York City, they're convoluted, they're conflicting with each other, and so much of it is in violation of federal and state law. It's contradictory throughout. So while the housing maintenance code does need to be updated, I can only imagine how much worse this mayor is going to make it.
I say housing, you say maintenance code. We will catch problems proactively and prevent them from becoming full-blown hazards, from day-to-day negligence to major breaches of fire code. We will also improve how 311 logs and investigates complaints.
Listen.
Starting on October 1st of this year, inspectors will investigate every single heat complaint the city receives.
Now, if you're a landlord in New York City, a property owner, a mom and pop landlord, a big landlord, one thing you know that because the L&T laws are so tenant friendly and so hostile to landlords, you get a lot of people here who rent, and what they do is they will call HPD. They'll call in these complaints, out of spite, whenever there's some sort of a dispute, or if the landlord's trying to evict them, or if they don't want to pay their rent, they weaponize the city agencies against their landlords. And so Zohran Mamdani is promising to make it even easier for them to do that. Now, anyone that owns property in New York City, you know exactly what I'm talking about. As a matter of fact, I just finally evicted a tenant who was in my house for 6 years without paying rent, all because of the landlord-tenant laws in New York City. And what did he do when we were getting close to finally getting him out? He kept calling HPD in order to get the property hit with so many violations and fines that I had to end up paying at the closing.
And we will support New Yorkers as they organize with their neighbors. If you form a tenant union, the city will stand with you.
This guy clearly doesn't want anyone to own property, and I'm going to prove it to you.
We will deliver the accountability you deserve from your landlord by doing a roof-to-basement inspection of your building.
Roof-to-basement?
Finally, throughout...
He's going to comb through every inch of your property. The guy is promising this. The day after he got elected, you know what he said? We are going to triple the amount of enforcement. We're going to send all the city agencies after all of these property owners. This guy is so hostile to home ownership. It's ridiculous. And you know what the crazy thing is? His parents own like a multi-million-dollar property. They own property outside of New York. He owns property in Uganda, rental properties. But he's so hostile against property ownership here in New York City, here in the United States. Isn't that interesting?
Our new citywide campaign, Fix the City, we will focus on the worst landlords in New York City.
Oh yeah, what are you going to do? And what are you going to do?
When necessary, we will take aggressive legal action to remove negligent owners and property managers.
Remove negligent owners? How?
And for buildings that have suffered chronic neglect, we will work to transfer ownership to responsible stewards.
Responsible stewards, like who?
Stewards that include community land trusts, nonprofits, or even the tenants themselves.
Bro, we got to walk through this. Community land trust. If you guys look into community land trust, that's basically where the city it basically owns the land, right? But they use nonprofits, they subsidize. It's all subsidies. So this is such an obvious, blatant scam. It's ridiculous. First of all, with this community land trust garbage, you never really own the property. It's not like you own, like, basically it's saying that you can buy a house, right? But it's on the land that these nonprofits own and manage. So you can never pass these home. It's kind of like you're renting. You can never pass down generational wealth. You can't pass down the home to your kids because you never actually own it. And there are so many rules. I'm gonna do a breakdown of community land trust. But then who else did he say? He said nonprofits. So they're gonna snatch your properties away from you, and they're going to hand it over to these nonprofits that we know are money laundering schemes, that especially here in New York. This is how a lot of these government officials, they launder their money. They take a shit ton of money through the budget, through the oh my God, what is it called? Through the discretionary funding. They take that money, they pour it into these nonprofits. You see, there's a lot of kickbacks. It's so dirty the way that this scam goes here, bro. And they do this through a limited amount of nonprofit organizations. So they take a whole bunch of money out of the budget and they throw it in there. And the money, you never really get to account for where that money was spent. So and where does a lot, so basically, even with the nonprofits that they're talking about that are going to be taking care of these properties, who's paying for it? You are, the taxpayer, because they're taking money out of the budget that's going into these nonprofits to run these properties. Now, and he also said giving it to the tenants. So you're going to snatch the properties away from the homeowners, the property owners, after you make it untenable for them to maintain the properties, and you just want to hand it over to the tenants? Is that really what's going to happen? The tenants are going to own it? Listen, I'm going to break this down for you guys, and when you really look into it, you're going to really be, I guess some of you will be shocked. Others, I don't know, unless you're looking for somebody to be a dependent, or you're looking to be a dependent on someone, anyone should have a problem with this.
The third core plank of our plan is years overdue.
Oh, by the way, the worst slumlord in New York City is New York City, the New York City government, NYCHA. Now, you can ask anyone that lives here in New York, and this is what's so crazy, right? The biggest slumlord in this city is the New York City Housing Authority. They have like 350,000 apartments. They're dilapidated. They're filled with rats. They're roach infested. There's mold. Bro, the elevators are broken. They never have gas in heat in the winter. That is the worst landlord. And the worst landlord, New York City government, is talking about snatching away these properties from the private sector in order to do what? They're just, oh man, this is so crazy. And I'm going to show you what this guy's plan really is, because he said it from the beginning. He told you.
We will deliver the transformative investments that public housing has long needed.
So he's promising to make the investments finally in public housing, the investments that never existed since like the 1970s.
Our public housing system, the largest of its kind in the country, was born from Mayor Fiorello LaGuardia's conviction that government owed its people decent, dignified homes. NYCHA began as a testament to something great, that government can not only imagine a better life for those it serves, but that it can fulfill that vision. And yet that conviction has become a relic of the past. After decades of disinvestment, NYCHA tenants have come to expect that no matter who is in office, they will be overlooked. Their concerns will be ignored. That ends today.
Oh my God, look at her in the background. Oh God.
City Hall will rewrite a legacy of neglect with the largest city capital commitment to NYCHA in decades. $5.6 billion over 5 years.
And how much y'all want to bet? You know, there have been so many previous investments into NYCHA, and it has gone nowhere. I mean, people were recently convicted for laundering money, stealing money from NYCHA. Bro, New York City is such a scam. It's such a money laundering operation.
And we will do all of this while ensuring that NYCHA remains publicly owned and publicly operated.
Publicly owned. Remember that.
This is about putting city government in the driver's seat. This is about delivering the changes that New Yorkers have been demanding with little avail for decades. These funds will go to...
You know what's crazy? You know what's crazy? You know what stimulates? You know what stimulates an economy? You know what's crazy? You know what stimulates the economy? What stimulates the housing market? Private ownership. When you have private owners, private businesses, you know, the more you try to expand the size of government and you make your government bigger, you give your government more control, you give your government more power to feed you, to house you, you become more dependent on the government. It's so hard to understand how people don't see this, how people don't realize this. Zohran Mamdani is a socialist. I would argue that he's a communist. But either way, socialism always leads to communism. It's just soft communism. And, you know, I want you guys to just hear some of the things that this guy has said. But before we get into that, because I want to break down his plans to you guys. But before we get into that, we're going to just go to a quick commercial. All right. And this is the Forge Fast system. It's a system that I created, and I think you guys are going to love it. Check it out. All right, so that's the Forge Fast method. I came up with this system. It's based on intermittent fasting, but uh, it has a lot of other stuff in there as far as like nutrition, as far as exercise, and it worked wonders for me. I literally lost 40 pounds in just a few months, doing intermittent fasting. There are a lot of amazing benefits from intermittent fasting. Cell regeneration. It cuts away the visceral fat. I mean, it just has so many benefits to it. But I'll probably write out like a little commercial type of thing, like a little ad thing, like I see some of the podcasters do, where I kind of walk through it for you. But just so you know, you can go to forgefastmethod.com. That's forgefastmethod.com. You can also download the intermittent fasting app, where it walks you through the entire process. And it has the timer, it checks in, it gives you the push notifications to keep you on point. And you can go to forgefast.app. That's forgefast.app. All right, so let's start with the plans that Zohran Mamdani has for homeowners in New York City. Now, we all know that the key to wealth is home ownership. Now, you have kids. You tell your kids that if you want them to have a chance in life, you want them to own something. Because when you own something, when you have an asset, that's how you can build equity. That's how you can catapult into the next stage of your life. Now, the problem that I have with socialists is that they spend so much time studying poverty that they don't invest any time into studying wealth. And one of the major problems that I see with Zohran Mamdani and his administration is it's almost like they're playing this virtue game, this game of moralizing, where they think that they're placing themselves on this pedestal of morality, and they just want to feed everyone, give everyone everything, while simultaneously taking away from the people who have worked hard and built something for themselves. Now, I want you guys to hear from their own mouths how they feel about home ownership. I understand that, tenants need protections, but it cannot be at the expense of those who own properties. See, one of the biggest things that we see is that socialists are very good at spending money, but they're not good at actually managing money. So their solutions always come with more spending. And this increased spending, whose money is that? That's our money. And so I really caution people when it comes to, falling behind these politics that continue to expand the role of government in your life, bigger government. Because when a government has so much power to feed you, to house you, to put money in your pocket, to educate you, they have so much power, you become a dependent to that government. So let me just let you guys hear a little bit of what Zohran Mamdani's renter, she's like the rent advocate something that he hired. I keep forgetting what her title is. I just call it communist, but her name is Sia Weaver. And I want you guys to listen to what the lead on his tenants' rights advocacy, in whatever that office is. I want you to hear how she feels about home ownership, private property, and what should happen to your property. I think it's relevant here. So let's see what Sia has to say.
So, and then the follow-up question to that is, what would a socialist housing policy for New York City, one that's presumably replicable in other parts of the country, what would that look like? What would a socialist urbanism look like? And then, from that we can open up that conversation in the context of the mayor's race in Albany.
Yeah, so what I would do is I would, first of all, you need to expand rent controls to cover smaller buildings.
So just so you guys know, rent control and rent stabilization are two different things. Rent stabilization is when they put limits on how much you can increase the rent on a tenant per annum. So every year, you know how some people might raise the rent, I don't know, like 10%. It might go up 7%, 5%. That's rent stabilization, where they put a limit on how much you can increase what you're charging for rent every year. Rent control, which is what she's talking about, is where there's a cap on your rent forever. meaning whatever you're paying, that's it. So if you were in that home, in that property from 1985, you're paying the same rent today that you were back then. And that's why when you look at the rent stabilization, because even with rent stabilization, the increases are so minute. And remember, Bill de Blasio, he enacted a rent freeze, and we saw how it destroyed everything and led to dilapidated housing. It led to less housing stock. It led to uh, um, adverse outcomes throughout the city. And so I want you guys to hear the full context of what she's saying, because it's very important here.
And that needs to happen in Albany, but there's also more that the mayor could do.
Who's being covered now? What kind of buildings are being covered now?
Buildings with 6 or more apartments.
6 or more.
Oh, because in my head, I'm like, I thought already, because I lived in a unit with 8 apartments, and it was rent controlled, and to me that was
It was rent stabilized, not rent control.
already a small building. But you're saying even like individual, single family homes,
or like
and 2-family homes, and
like the.
So just so you guys are clear on what she's saying, if you own a 3-family, 4-family in New York City, you know that those are exempt from rent stabilization laws, because those are smaller properties. Now, we know rent stabilization laws begin with 6 families, 6 units. So Sia Weaver wants to bring it down. She said 4, but she also said, when she said single family. I guarantee you she wants to do this for 2 and 3 family homes. I mean, she already says that private home ownership is white supremacy. And she says seize private property. And she says seize private property from Black people as well, because it's all white supremacy. These are the things that this woman that Zohran Mamdani appointed has said. So so to all of the small mom and pop landlords who have dared to take the risk of renting to a tenant in New York City, even though the laws are so archaic and anti-landlord, and you can get stuck with a tenant for like 5-6 years, like I did, she wants to make sure that you can't even charge enough money to maintain the property. Let's continue.
Neighborhoods that Zoran's describing in Queens, like or Bay Ridge, half of the city's housing stock is in like 4 to 6 unit apartment buildings.
Wild.
That were once affordable homeownership opportunities for immigrants and are now overwhelmingly being bought up by organizations like Blackstone or like whatever, or even like medium-sized slumlords.
See, no, what she meant to say was medium-sized slumlords, and she's actually talking about mom and pop landlords, just so you guys know. It's just a flat-out demonization of home ownership. Blackstone is not buying up a whole bunch of properties in New York City. Now, that's more of an issue that you will see like in other states or across the nation, but their portfolio still, it's honestly not even that much, right? But still, it is concerning in the areas in which they are like picking up entire swaths of land and communities, right? But in New York City, that's just not a problem here. You got the developers that are coming in here, these private developers and the gentrifiers who are coming into these communities. Those are the people who are actually causing the problem. And the thing that's interesting is people like this weird woman right here, she will be the first person to condemn gentrification when she is in fact a gentrifier. All of their politics are gentrification. And if you notice, one word that Zohran Mamdani did not say at all on the campaign trail, and I don't even think he said it since he got elected, was gentrification. And why is that? Because I told you all from the very beginning, he was and always has been the gentrification candidate that is displacing Black and brown and poor people and middle-class working New Yorkers of all races out of their communities. This is just what it is. Look at who voted for him. Look at the demographics and the percentages. He is and was always the gentrifier candidate. Now, I want you guys to listen to what Sia Weaver has to say right now about her intentions. What are the goals here? What's the motivating factor behind all of this?
So rent control, and they need to be rent controlled. And the reason why they need to be rent controlled is not because like rent control is inherently socialist, but because rent control limits the speculative value of the land. Like our goal is to have the housing actually be worth less.
Whoa. What did she just say? Did you all hear what she just said? Wait a minute. Let's hear that again.
Is not because like rent control is inherently socialist, but because rent control limits the speculative value of the land. Like our goal is to have the housing actually be worth less to some degree, right? Like we don't want this to be an investment vehicle. We want it to be like long-term stable homes.
She said it. She wants to eliminate the speculative value of your home. She does not want home ownership to be for profit in any way. She wants everyone to be crammed into housing, community housing, public housing, welfare. She's literally advocating for the welfare state. This is who New York City elected. This is who you guys elected. Zohran Mamdani said it on the campaign trail that he wanted to abolish private property. And I've talked about this ad nauseum, and I've had people tell me, no, he didn't. He didn't say that. So for the people who say he didn't say that, please explain this.
Every single person should have housing. And I think faced with these two options, the system has hundreds of thousands of people unhoused, right? For what? And if there was any system that could guarantee each person housing, whether you call it the abolition of private property or you call it, just a statewide housing guarantee, it is preferable to what is going on right now.
Listen, y'all. The guy has been consistent. I mean, he's been saying this all along. And I don't know why people are acting shocked at the results. Like you elected him. He told you what he wanted to do. I mean, we know a lot of the stuff that he promised was pie in the sky. But I guess it was the dopamine of the moment. Hearing all of that free stuff. Hearing someone who was talking like they care about you and they want to nurture you. But they also want to make sure that they control you, that they herd you and corral you into a corner, and they leave you in a position where you are forever trapped in poverty. And they want you to be comfortable in that poverty. I don't know how you guys missed that, but let's keep going because we want to hear everything that Zohran Mamdani has to say when it comes to his ideas on housing.
Of an alternative framework for housing. And Vienna has not fully removed housing from the domain of the market. Residents still pay part of their earnings in rent to cover operational costs, and a sizable chunk of the population lives in private housing. But it's an actually existing alternative that shows us what a step toward a better world could look like. If we want to end the housing crisis, the solution has to be moving toward the full decommodification of housing.
Decommodification of housing. That means no profit incentive at all in real estate, just so you guys know.
In other words, moving away from the status quo in which most people access housing by purchasing it on the market.
Right. Moving away from purchasing homes to what, Zohran?
And toward a future where we guarantee high quality housing to all as a human right. So how can we do it? We can start by making sure people who access housing on the private market have ironclad protections against abuse and exploitation. But to go further, toward the Vienna model, we'll have to go beyond the market. We can establish community land trusts to gradually buy up housing on the private market and convert it to community ownership. We can give tenants a right of first refusal to buy out their landlords when buildings go up for sale. And we can fully commit to a new era of social housing, ending subsidies for luxury housing development and using our wealth to build beautiful, high-quality social housing projects that offer good homes and strong communities to everyone. We won't decommodify housing.
He's telling you. He wants to wait, bro, hold on. Bro. He's telling you he wants to shove you all into community housing projects. I said this. I don't know why nobody was listening when we were telling you this. And now you got the man out here promising to snatch your properties away. As soon as he won the election, he announced that he was weaponizing all of the city agencies against property owners. And if you own a home and you voted for Zohran Mamdani, I'm sorry. You are like, bro, you getting what you asked for. But anyway, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Your health should be simple. The ForgeFast system is your complete guide to lasting rhythm, balance, and sustainable health. It includes the book, our fasting app, and daily guidance to keep you consistent. Whether shedding pounds or regaining consistency, track your streaks and reclaim your health. Begin today at forgefast.app/book.
All right. Welcome back. So, to put things in perspective here, you know, when you hear all of this language of freeze the rent, that is just a terrible idea. And it's not like we haven't seen this happen before throughout our history in New York City. And that's the thing, you know, when you don't learn these lessons from the past, you're doomed to repeat it. Now, we know under Bill de Blasio, he enacted a rent freeze and it was disastrous for the city. I mean, it was such a horrible outcome because whenever you freeze the rent, what you're doing is, first of all, rent stabilization is, I would argue, one of the most self-defeating practices that we have, especially here in New York City. Now, that's not to say that you don't advocate or you don't fight or protect tenants, but the rent stabilization laws, we are so over-regulated here in New York City that it is pretty much uninvestable, especially in the real estate market. And I honestly think that Zohran Mamdani, this is like the perfect environment for a socialist to come in here. You know, I think Bill de Blasio actually laid out the pins just for Zohran Mamdani to eventually come in and knock them all down. And by the pins, I mean private property. So when it comes to rent stabilization, when you continue to impose all of these restrictions on these people who own properties that have tenants in them, and you restrict their ability to make profit in those properties, and you continue to enact these different laws and codes that provide more and more and more advantages, because I'm not even going to say protections, more advantages for tenants, it allows the abuse. And one of the things that the city of New York does is they weaponize the city agencies against landlords. So what they'll do is, a lot of tenants, they're very familiar with this. First of all, you can't even get an eviction done in New York City. If you want to evict the tenant, you're going to have to pay them, usually tens of thousands of dollars. And depending on the size of the property that you own, you may have to pay somewhere around $400,000, $500,000 just to get them to leave. And that's the problem, the scam when it comes to rent stabilization, because you're forever trapped there. So you have people now who own like 20 family, 25 family buildings, and they're just walking away from them. or they're selling them for like $1 million because they're just in the negative. They're in the red. They're liabilities, complete liabilities at this point. And I think this was intentionally done. You see, when the city continues to hit you with all of these fines, these violations, you have to pay them, and they get very expensive. Now, how are you going to pay them if your tenants, they know that they can just call HPD anytime they're pissed off, anytime you want your rent and they don't feel like paying it, they'll call HPD. They probably won't let you into the apartment to make whatever repair that it needs to get done, or what they damaged, they don't allow you in. And when it comes to, like, let's say Section 8 and other those types of tenants, they just stop your rent completely when it's subsidized rent. But for those other people, they just won't pay you your rent, and you're building up a whole bunch of fines and violations on your property. Now, there are properties where you got hundreds of thousands of dollars in fines that just build up, maybe $1 million. And now what happens after you get all of those fines packed onto your property and you're struggling? You can't even maintain the property because of all of the restrictions that the city's putting on you. You now get labeled as a slumlord, which serves as the perfect excuse to come in and snatch your property away and take it, whether it be through eminent domain, or they try to find some way of what was that COPA law, where they try to place a requirement on you that even if you're in foreclosure, you're drowning in debt, and you want to sell your property, you have to give first right of refusal to nonprofit agencies that are designated by the city. That is absolutely this. What type of totalitarianism is this? In New York City, I'm sad to say it, but these people, they pass laws, they propose and they pass laws that are in direct violation of federal law, of the Constitution, and many in violation of state law. So when you promise these rent freezes, what you're actually promising to do is make it more unaffordable for the people who own these properties to even put these properties on the market. And you already have a bunch of property owners who are withholding their apartments from the market because they just can't afford it. They can't afford the cheap rent. They can't even afford to fix the apartments. Some of these apartments will cost over $100,000 just to do the repairs. And then what are they going to do? Charge $1,100 a month for it? It just doesn't make sense anymore. They become write-offs. So you see, the more restrictions they put on property owners, the more it leads to warehousing. And when they keep these properties off of the market, what happens? The supply decreases. And what does that do to the demand? The demand increases. And what does that do to the price of rent? It sends the price of rent soaring. Now, here's the thing. Zohran Mamdani has been promising this rent freeze, but I think most people don't even realize that the rent freeze that he's been promising you and that he's trying to get is for people who are already paying below market rent. The people who he's saving this money for, the rent stabilized units, remember, he was in one and he was paying way below market rent for his apartment. That's who he's freezing the rent for. And when he freezes the rent for those people, what do you think is going to happen to the rest of you that are in these private apartments that are not rent stabilized? Your rent's going up. Every policy that Zohran Mamdani proposes, it leads to the cost of living going up and your rent going up. What do you think is going to happen with his proposed property tax hike? When he used, middle-class New Yorkers as leverage in his fight with the state. What do you think that does? It drives up. If property taxes are going up by 10%, who do you think that's going to be passed through to the tenants? So every single policy that you see proposed by Zohran Mamdani and the DSA folks, who are, they're all extreme. It leads to more spending and a higher cost of living for you, because with more spending requires more tax dollars, requires more fines, more speed cameras, more red light cameras, more congestion pricing, more fees, more rules. New York, I don't know. Don't act surprised. but you got what you voted for. Let's just hope that you guys are smart enough not to make the same mistake twice when he gets out of here. Anyway, thank you guys for joining me. I appreciate you. Thank you for joining me on Tony Talks. I'll see you guys soon. All right. Peace.